Straight to that developing story at Peugeot, where thousands of jobs are to go.
Yeah, the headline figure, Claire, is up to 8,000 jobs, which seems pretty dramatic. It's a bit more complicated than that. Not all of those will be out-and-out job cuts. We know that at least 3,500 jobs will go at Peugeot Citroën's main factory just outside Paris. Some jobs are going to be redeployed around France as well, and some jobs will be sort of reinvented, if you like, but that's still going to be small comfort for those people who are going to have to decide whether they up sticks and move somewhere else to work or take a voluntary redundancy plan, which will be in place at least for the next 9 months or so. It doesn't reduce the fact that this company is in real trouble, and that's a reflection of just how much trouble it's in. This is one of the most fundamental shake-ups of one of France's best-known brands, and of course that factory just outside Paris, as of many others, have been in these communities for decades now. So a huge upheaval. Predictably, unions who were meeting the management a little earlier this Thursday morning have taken this as what they call a declaration of war and an earthquake. What Peugeot Citroën will do as well is halt production at one of those plants outside Paris over the next year or so. They're going to try and salvage the factory, get it doing other things rather than just close it down completely. But we can say that production, as we know it, of those vehicles will halt over the next 12 months or so.
So big job losses, but what's the car maker's strategy for selling cars?
Well, the problem is it's come a little bit too late to the table with the strategy. It has had in place for a couple of months now a tie-up with GM and its subsidiary in Europe, Opel. The two companies are going to basically try and consolidate things a little bit. They're going to start sharing production lines. They're going to share the manufacture of key parts, and that's where Peugeot Citroën can save a lot of money between them. These two companies can save around €1 billion. The problem for Peugeot Citroën is it's come a little bit late to doing this kind of tie-up. When you consider a company like Renault, it's had a partnership with Nissan in Japan for the best part of 10 years now, and that's partly why Renault's performance has been so much better than Peugeot's. The other problem, two problems in fact, France and Italy. These are two of Peugeot Citroën's core markets. People aren't buying cars there because these two countries have pretty much gone bust with the consequences for consumers there. So what it has to do is try and find new markets. It is trying to do that with GM, but it's all just a little bit too late, certainly too late for those thousands of staff who are going to lose their jobs.
Now, Peugeot's share price opened up 1.3%, but it remains 70% down for the last 12 months.
Yeah, and it's going to be pretty erratic, Claire, if the first few minutes of trading or anything to go by for the rest of the day. The European market's looking very choppy on the back of that announcement, particularly the CAC 40 here in Paris opening down around 0.5%. It's a similar kind of picture as well across the European markets. I can tell you that Spain's IBEX has also opened down. That's just a day after a huge announcement and more austerity by the government. Let's give you the numbers on the Asian markets as well. The Hang Seng nearly 2% down. The Nikkei in similar kind of territory as well, just before the close of trading there. The Nikkei has pretty much given up all the gains it had for June in just 5 days or so of trading this month.
Now, you mentioned the Spanish market earlier, so the relief over Spain's austerity package was very short-lived.
Absolutely. We saw a good lift, in fact, for the IBEX in Madrid. At the close of trading, it closed more than 1% up. That was after a raft of announcement by the government. I've put one or two of the key headline figures up on the board for you there. The big headline figure, €65 billion in cuts and raised taxes. Now, some of those taxes will include a VAT increase from 18% to 21%. Unemployment benefits, if you're unemployed in Spain, you're going to have those benefits reduced quite significantly after 6 months out of work. It's not just the unemployed and consumers are going to be hit as well. If you've invested in some of Spain's banks, you're going to take a collective haircut or write down on your investment of up to €67 billion. This was one of the conditions, and indeed these austerity conditions were in return for Spain's banks getting up to €100 billion in recapitalisation to save them and save Spain from that property bubble which has brought the economy to its knees. It was a very humbling day for the Spanish Prime Minister, Mariano Rajoy, who, it has to be remembered, came to office not that long ago promising Spanish voters he would cut taxes, where now he's had to do the opposite.
I said I would cut taxes, but I'm raising them. I haven't changed my position. I will reduce taxes when it's possible, but circumstances have changed and I need to adapt to them.
Let's stay with the Eurozone crisis as we catch up with some more headlines. Europe's most at-risk banks have increased their capital buffers well beyond the required amount. That's according to the European Banking Association. It says 27 at-risk banks now have combined top-quality assets, known as core Tier 1 capital, of 97 billion euros. That's around 20 billion more than they were required to raise to stop future financial shocks.
The US government has been forced to U-turn on its harvest forecasts because of the drought triggered by the heat wave. Agriculture officials now think that farmers will produce 12% less corn than they originally thought. Corn prices have rocketed nearly 30% in recent weeks, with soybeans also steeply up as the US heat waves decimate crops across the Midwest.
And staying with the US, Barack Obama has given firms permission to resume investments in Burma following the country's liberalization. The US president made his decree as an American ambassador met the regime's rulers, the first such encounter for more than 20 years. American companies are now expected to join a rush to exploit large reserves of oil and gas in the South Asian state.
Now, finally, it's one expensive seat for man, but one giant leap for one entrepreneur. Yes, it has to be Sir Richard Branson. The British entrepreneur says that Virgin Galactic's passenger space project is now set for takeoff in 2013, and he's calling this the budget option. It's only around £160,000 for a ticket, although there are other low-cost options for getting yourself into space. France 24 went to the UK's International Farnborough Air Show to get the details.
It's Richard Branson's latest stellar idea. Launcher One, a satellite launch vehicle that's low cost. And according to the British entrepreneur, there's nothing loony about entering the corporate space race.
We're going to be able to put satellites into space at a fraction of the price that it's cost in the past. So at the moment it costs about $30 to $40 million. We'll be able to put them into space at less than $10 million.
Branson's Virgin Galactic business is close to takeoff. At the Farnborough Air Show, the company says soon it'll be making regular passenger space flights, bringing a whole new dimension to the aeronautics industry.
We are very pleased that the UK has about an 8% growth in space. It's a very significant part of our future, and it's so significant that we're contemplating changing the name from the Farnborough Air Show to the Farnborough Air and Space Show.
More than 500 people have already bought a seat to suborbital space. Aboard Spaceship Two, passengers will fly 100 kilometres above the Earth. Launches start next year. Tickets aren't cheap.
I had to pay $200,000 up front, but I think it's worth it because I think it's just such a great project, and we are really at the beginning of a new era in space travel, so I'm pretty excited to be part of this historic project.
A historic and potentially profitable project. Virgin Galactic says 4 companies have put down deposits to use its low-cost rocket in order to take their businesses to the stars.
I wonder what the in-flight movies are like, and do you get your glass of champagne, do you think? You would like
I would
to
hope
think you
so
would for that sort of price.
160,000, yes.
Not bad. If you're just joining us, just a quick reminder of our top story. French car maker Peugeot Citroën has announced up to 8,000 job cuts as part of a major reorganisation of the French car maker. At least 3,600 jobs will go at its main car-making plant just outside Paris, and production there will be halted by the end of next year.
All right, that's it for business. Thanks very much, Owen. You're watching Live from Paris. Coming up after the break.